We just witnessed the slowest cast reveal of all time for Avengers Doomsday. Now, some of the reveals were expected and some were surprising, so I thought it would be fun to go through this list, give my thoughts and rank all 27 confirmed cast members from my least favourite to my favourite in terms of who I'm most excited to see. Hello and welcome to Cinemaze, and subscribe to see more videos like this. As always with my rankings, I first need to set out the criteria for what I'm going to be including in this ranking and how I'm ranking it. This will only include the confirmed cast from the live stream, so there are 27 cast members that seem to split mostly across 5 groups of Avengers, Thunderbolts, Wakanda, Fantastic Four and the X-Men. There were some people who were previously rumoured from some pretty mainstream articles, but I'm only going to count those confirmed in this live stream. Now, this is not a ranking of my favourite characters in this announcement. Of course that plays a part, but it's more about who I'm excited to see appearing in this film specifically. What is their role? Why are they chosen for this film? Do they have an interesting relationship with other characters? Also, with some returning characters, seeing them more recently may make me more or less excited for their appearance depending on the context. And some of these characters we haven't met yet, which of course can make them hard to rank. Also, I'm going to be assuming that all of these characters have a similar role in the film. I've seen some speculation that people think the X-Men will be purely cameos and might just even be killed off immediately to show Doom's power. That would really dampen my excitement to see them, and I don't think they'd bring them back and announce them if that were true. So let's assume that all of these people have decent enough size roles in the film, in the same way that any character in Infinity War or Civil War might have a role if they're a main hero. With that out of the way, let's get right into the ranking. Number 27, Falcon. In last place we have the new Falcon, Joaquin Torres. Nothing against this character, I enjoy him enough, but I don't have a massive attachment to him, and he only really has a connection to one character in this cast. He doesn't necessarily feel like he's earned a spot on this list, and it feels like he's taken the place of a more major character like Spidey, Doctor Strange or Hulk. Number 26, Sentry. Really surprised that they announced this one, as it basically confirms that the villain of the Thunderbolts movie survives and likely resolves his identity issues with the Void and becomes a member of the team, kind of spoiling that film. Excluding that, I haven't met this guy yet, so he's really hard to rank on this list, and we haven't really seen him in the trailers, so I don't know what to expect. But he is a powerful character, and it will be interesting to see what he can do in an Avengers movie, especially if his darker Void side resurfaces. Number 25, Ghost. Next up, Ghost, not a character I dislike, and I think she has a lot of potential. I'm excited to see her in Thunderbolts, but she's already one of the least interesting members of that team, and similar to Falcon, again, I feel like this slot could be given to a more major Avenger. But she gets higher up because not only does she have the Thunderbolts connection, but she has a connection to Ant-Man also in this film. Number 24, Red Guardian. I don't hate the Thunderbolts, so please don't think that just based on my last 3 ranks. I'm genuinely really excited for that film and I have a good feeling about it, and my thoughts could change for this team after that film. It's just that I don't necessarily need these characters in an Avengers film yet, especially the setup movie. They feel like they'd fit more into the bigger team up of Secret Wars. That said, Red Guardian is a fun character, one who has a troublesome history trying to find his place in the world. I don't think he needs to be an Avengers film, but it will be interesting to see how he fits into that and how he plays off the Avengers team, especially considering he is designed to be a counterpart to Captain America. But he can be used too much for comic relief at times, and I don't want too much of that in Doomsday. Number 23, M'Baku. Now we have M'Baku, and it's always fun to see him, and he is a great screen presence. He's interacted with some of the Avengers before in Infinity War, so he doesn't feel totally out of place here, and tying Wakanda into these big events is always fun. The fact that he's the one confirmed over some of the other Wakandan key characters is intriguing to me, but also there's a lot of other characters this slot could have gone to, but let's see what they cook up. Number 22, Black Panther. Next up we have Shuri as Black Panther. She hasn't completely won me over yet as the new Black Panther. I wasn't the biggest fan of her arc in Wakanda Forever, which does hold my excitement for this character back, but that said, Black Panther, both T'Challa and Shuri play a big role in the build up to Secret Wars 2015 in the Time Runs Out comic, as does Wakanda as a nation. So if they're adapting that, that is also very interesting. She is a super genius, which is always helpful for teams like this, and she has a connection to some of these Avengers from Infinity War. Plus, she has a connection to Namor, who is also on this list. And so I'm excited to see how she and Wakanda fits into this film. Number 21, US Agent. Now, I think John Walker is one of the more interesting Thunderbolts, and it should be really interesting to see how he plays off the Avengers team, playing off Captain America, considering his connection to these guys exists outside of the Thunderbolts film. As a more morally grey character, I think that will be interesting, especially because in the comics building up to 2015 Secret Wars, there were 2 Avengers teams. One considered the morally good team, trying to save lives, led by Cap, and one willing to make the harder choices, led by Stark. And I think there's a chance here that the Thunderbolts will play the role of that more morally grey team opposing the Avengers, and I think Walker could be a vocal part of that team. Number 20, Mystique. Of the returning X-Men cast, Mystique is the one that I find the least interesting. I just think there's not too much I can see them doing with her character except standing there and siding with Magneto. Maybe they can give her the more comic booky outfit. That would be fun to see. Now, it is interesting that she is a villain. Other than Magneto, the rest of the people on this list are heroes, and it's always fun when the X-Men team up with the Brotherhood of Mutants. That said, I would rather this slot have gone to any other X-Men characters that I would have liked to have seen get a second chance, like Storm or Jean Grey. Number 19, Loki. It's always fun to see Loki, and Tom Hiddleston always brings his A game. That said, we've seen this guy die so many times, and I think his ending in both Infinity War and Loki Season 2 were very impactful, that I would be happy if his stories ended there. But as the guy holding together the multiverse, I assume his role will be critical. He's the only character that doesn't fit neatly into a team grouping here. How does he fit into this script? So there must be a key role for him here. Potentially he's the warning, the messenger setting off the chain of events for this movie like Hulk did in Infinity War. Or he will be the reason that Battleworld gets made, like Doom stealing the power of the Beyonder or manipulating Molecule Man in the comics. Loki could easily fill that role. Number 18, Ant-Man. Next up we have Scott Lang, and it's always fun to see this character, and Paul Rudd is always fun in the role. That said, the last time we saw him was in Quantumania, and that left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. If this was still Kang Dynasty, like the original version, you would assume that Ant-Man would be a key player due to his history with Kang, but now it leaves him in a weird place. Thinking about his connection to the other characters, he does have a few to people on this team. Sam was in his first film, he sided with him and Bucky in Civil War, and Ghost is the only person that we have seen her interact with outside of the Thunderbolts. Again, if these two teams are on slightly opposing sides, that will add an interesting dynamic. But there's no one here that he's that close to. No Wasp, which is interesting, and the other characters that he interacted a lot with in Civil War or Endgame are no longer around. He did know Stark, so maybe that adds to the intrigue of RDJ returning as Doom. Also, what does make me excited is I think Ant-Man is one of those characters that can be more interesting outside of his own story, and I really like the way the Russos handled him in both their films. Number 17, Professor X. The next X-Man on this list is Charles Xavier. It's Sir Patrick Stewart. It's always fantastic to see him in this role, and if we hadn't seen him return for Multiverse of Madness, he would be way higher up this list. But we've already seen him return, and so it doesn't feel quite as special. Now, what is nice is that his past appearance was fun, but he was pretty unceremoniously killed off. So this gives us a chance to give him a better return and a better ending, because if Multiverse of Madness really was the last time that we ever saw him, that kind of would have sucked. Number 16, the Human Torch. Next up we have Johnny Storm. We haven't seen the Fantastic Four movie yet, and in the trailer we get the least from this character, which makes him the hardest member of the team to rank. But that intrigue does make me excited to see what the actor brings to the role, and that's what gets him to here on my list. However, Johnny Storm doesn't really have much to do in either the build-up to 2015 Secret Wars or the event itself, as he's trapped in the sun for most of the story. So he feels like he's the least consequential of the four for the plot that they're going for. But hopefully they can create him a unique role which proves him to be more than just charisma and comic relief. Number 15, The Thing. Following up the Human Torch, we have Ben Grimm. Of the four members of the team, I think this one has the most interesting actor cast in the role. I really think he has the ability and the range to bring a lot to the role of Ben Grimm, and I loved what I saw of him in the trailer. That said, all of that will be seen in Fantastic Four First Steps, but what can he bring to Doomsday? Much like Johnny, The Thing doesn't have much to do to the build up to Secret Wars, and while he does play a more substantial role in Secret Wars himself than Johnny, he's still not a major player. Number 14, Beast. Next up we have Kelsey Grammer's Beast returning, and again, if we hadn't seen this one in the Marvels, this genuinely might be the casting announcement which reached number 1 for me, because Kelsey Grammer seems so good in this role in X-Men 3, but we never really got to see that much from the character, and I always wanted more from him. So bringing him back with the original cast in modern times, where more comic accurateness is embraced, could really give the chance to bring this character to live action. Now, of course, we saw him in the post-credit scene for the Marvels, so the initial impact of this casting is taken away, which is why he isn't any further up this list. But I'm super excited to see this one, especially with the more comic accurate design. Number 13, Yelena. Now we have Yelena. She's really been a standout character from the Multiverse saga, and so I feel like she is one of the new characters who has earned her spot on an Avengers team. She seems to have great chemistry with whoever she is paired up with on screen, and it will be fun to see her play against this much larger cast. She will fill that role that Black Widow did, and it will be fascinating to see her dynamic with the characters that her sister knew. How does Yelena's relationship with these characters compare? Number 12, the Winter Soldier. Now we have the final member of the Thunderbolts, and that's Bucky Barnes. He's been around in the MCU for a long time now, and I'm glad he's finally beginning to feel like a more important character. He's in an interesting position because by this movie he will have had a relationship with both the Thunderbolts and some people on the new Avengers team. And if we do get that clash between the Thunderbolts and the Avengers, like I mentioned, there was a similar thing in the comics, that will really put tension between the de facto leaders of both teams, with Sam versus Bucky. Two characters who know each other well, two characters who both try to live up to Steve's legacy, and that will add an incredible amount of depth to the team dynamics that we see in Doomsday. Number 11, Captain America. And that brings us on to new Captain America, and if you have an Avengers team, you need a Captain America leading it. And I think Sam Wilson has earned the role of leader for this new Avengers. It will be so satisfying to see him finally step into a leadership role for this new team, and it will add a level of connection to the previous Avengers movies because he was handed a shield at the end of Endgame. He's met and has a relationship with a few of the different cast members in this film, and as mentioned, if we do get a moral clash between the Avengers and the Thunderbolts, that will be super interesting to see. This is a fresh Avengers team with new and old faces, so having a leader with a history between these characters is exactly what is needed and will be symbolic of the Avengers evolution. Number 10, Shang-Chi. If we're talking about standout characters from the multiverse saga, Shang-Chi is up there. While I do have issues with the finale of his movie, I don't have issues with his character, and he's always been one that I can't wait to see again. It's surprising to me that we haven't seen more of his character yet, and so the excitement to know that he is returning is what gets him so far up this list. The Russos have done a great job at grounded action scenes, so I'd love to see them handle the martial arts of this character on the big screen. We know Shang-Chi was going to be a key player for the original version of this film, Kang Dynasty, so will any of that transfer over into Doomsday? I can't wait to find out. Number 9, the Invisible Woman. Now we have Sue Storm, and I think Vanessa Kirby is a great cast for this role. What sets her above the other members of the Fantastic Four that I've mentioned so far is her relationship to key players in this film. Of course, to Reed Richards. In the comics, they both play a key role in the build-up to Secret Wars on opposite teams, but secretly working together behind the scenes. But for this specific story, it's her relationship with Doom that most interests me. In the 2015 Secret Wars, Doom steals Reed Richards' family, and on Battleworld, Sue believes she is married to Doom. It will be super interesting to see how her relationship with Doom looks in the MCU and on the build-up to Secret Wars. Namor is also a character she has an interesting relationship with, and he's a character also in Doomsday, really setting Sue up as a central figure here, plus the fact that they gave her the second chair in the announcement really does tell me that she's going to be a key player here. Number 8, Doctor Doom. Okay, here's the big one. Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. And I'm so conflicted. My overwhelming feeling is if anyone else was cast in this role, this probably would be number 1. Because Doom is one of the best villains in comics, and it's great that he's getting adapted on the big screen, and not just for a Fantastic Four movie, but as an Avengers level threat. But it's not just any actor, it's RDJ, the actor most associated with the MCU and intrinsically tied to Tony Stark. It's a casting which feels designed to win over general audiences, but it screws over hardcore fans because we want a proper Doctor Doom. Not a gimmicky Doctor Doom, not a Tony Stark variant of Doctor Doom, but a proper Doom. And I don't see a world where whatever multiverse stuff they do with RDJ as Doom is more interesting than a classical take on the character. Doom is a strong enough character to stand on his own without the need for this stunt casting. Plus there's the fact that Doom's face should rarely be seen, but I don't see them cast RDJ paying him an absurd amount of money to rarely show his face. And there's the fact that Doom here is just going to feel like a replacement Kang. If planned from the start, Doom could be the villain of the full saga, appearing in Fantastic Four films and slowly culminating in Secret Wars. Instead, he's a replacement Kang, and they are rushing Doom to course correct. But with only 2 films of build-up, and again, that just feels like a disservice to the character. That said, it's not impossible, and I trust the Russos in the MCU, I trust the returning writer, and I trust RDJ. It's the best possible team to do this idea. I'm just not sure that it's the best idea in the first place. He does get this high at my list though because of intrigue. Like maybe there is something to it. Bringing RDJ back is such a specific idea that there has to be a reason. Surely. I hope so. And I'm really interested to know how this works. Plus, RDJ is now an Oscar-winning actor. We know he can do fantastic performances. If he hadn't already played Stark, I think we'd be more excited for this announcement because we know he has the chops to pull this off. I just hope he actually does pull it off. He's just so iconic as Stark, I just can't picture him as anyone else. I hope I'm wrong, but when I see him in that chair in the announcement, I see Tony Stark. I don't see Doctor Doom. Number 7, Mr. Fantastic. Now we have Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, and just as a cast for the Fantastic Four, he's my least favourite of the bunch, the one I don't quite see the actor portraying as well as the others. But this isn't for the Fantastic Four movie. This is for Doomsday leading to Secret Wars, and Mr. Fantastic will undoubtedly play a critical role in both films. In the comics, he is key in the build-up to Secret Wars, stopping the incursions, and in Secret Wars itself, he is the character who directly opposes Doom and saves the day. And so much of Doom's motivation is due to his his self-consciousness about being inferior to Reed Richards. We will finally get to see Reed interact with the greater MCU, something that has felt a long time coming. His relationship with the Fantastic Four is of course iconic, but it's his relationship with Doom that is most interesting here. I doubt Doom is in much of Fantastic Four first steps, if at all, so it's really going to be down to Doomsday to establish that Reed-Victor relationship that is so central to the story, and I cannot wait to see how they adapt it. While I'm not keen on either castings on their own, it certainly will be interesting to see these two great and charismatic actors play off each other. There's a reason that these two chairs followed each other in the announcement. Number 6, Gambit. Channing Tatum's Gambit was one of the standout performances from Deadpool and Wolverine, allowing us to experience a what would have been casting and ending up really impressing most people in a way that we just didn't expect. That said, when rumors began to circulate about bringing him back into the MCU, I wasn't on board. I want the MCU to have their own Gambit, a younger, less jokey take on the character. So bringing him in here is absolutely the perfect way to do it. It allows Tatum to return, this time to interact with a wider X-Men team, which he may have been able to do at some point if his original movie actually got made, and it allows him to play this character in a more serious way, because this isn't a Deadpool comedy and instead an Avengers movie with Doctor Doom. It's safe to assume that this will be a more serious film, and that allows Tatum to play this character how he actually would have for his own movie. His Deadpool appearance was a very self-aware, tongue-in-cheek joke, a joke that absolutely worked, but this gives him the chance to show us what he can really do and to really make a name for himself. Number 5, Namor. Kicking off my top 5 is Namor, and I know this one, being this high up, might be controversial, but to me, this is one of the most interesting castings, because when you look at all the other castings of the characters from the MCU itself, they all seem expected. They all make sense in some way, but Namor feels very specific. He's a character that doesn't feel like he needs to be here, but that's what excites me. Why have they chosen him? It must be for a reason. Now, in the comics, in the build-up to Secret Wars, Time Runs Out Again, Namor plays a key role. For the most part, he works alongside the Avengers in stopping incursions. But when it comes down to destroying another world, no one can do it. No one except Namor. He has more of an edge. He's the wild card and a role as not quite a hero or villain that no other character can replicate. So the fact that they have cast him makes me think they're adapting Time Runs Out, which I think is a good idea, and that excites me. I think I'm going to make a video about that in the future, how that is going to influence this film. Namor in the comics also has an interesting relationship with T'Challa and the destruction of Wakanda that occurs, and here he has an interesting relationship with the new Black Panther Shuri and the destruction of her family. So her being in this film adds to that dynamic. Also, Namor is a mutant. He's the only mutant out of the MCU castings that we know. So if we're having a film about MCU characters versus Fox mutants, Namor is in an interesting position as both an MCU character and a mutant. How will that shape his decisions in this film? So overall, Namor's inclusion here, it just really intrigues me. Number 4, Thor. Excluding the X-Men and just look at the MCU characters cast so far, Thor Odin's son is the character I am most excited to see here. He is interestingly the only original Avenger on this team, which will allow him to play the role of the seasoned hero and mentor figure, which I think the character's earned after being around for so long. He can form new and interesting relationships with this team. Despite Thor's last appearance being too cartoony, I'm excited to see him come back for a more serious movie. And if they take on board the feedback and we get something more akin to Thor in Infinity War, also directed by the Russo brothers, this could be a much more interesting take on the character than the last time we saw him. Being the only original Avenger here, it means he knew Stark, and that poises him to have an interesting relationship with Doom, if the fact that Doom looks like Stark is a key point in the film itself. Also, the fact that Hemsworth was the first chair implies that he will play a major role in this film, and honestly, I can see him dying here. In the Time Runs Out story, building to Secret Wars, we see Thor die near the end of the event, and with Hemsworth being in the MCU for 15 years by the time this film comes out, and him wanting to take a step back from acting for health reasons, this could be the way to end his character. He's felt like a character that they really struggled to know what to do with, how to handle him outside of the Avengers movies, constantly switching between a king and a lone wolf, constantly trying to find himself. Maybe it's time to retire this character with a major sacrifice at the end of this film. Could Thor's death by the hands of Doom, who reminds him of Stark, be the most heartbreaking twist in Doomsday? Number 3, Nightcrawler. Of the returning X-Men cast, Alan Cummings as Nightcrawler is the one that surprised me the most, and for that reason it makes it to number 3. This version of Nightcrawler was great. He had a phenomenal opening action scene, and despite being a more somber take on the character than I'm used to, he really fit into the grounded world of the Fox universe. Now, Nightcrawler was originally planned to be in X-Men 3, but Cummings didn't want to go through the intensive makeup situation again. And so this felt like one of those castings that just would never happen again. Similar to how we don't ever see Hugo Weaving return as Red Skull whenever Red Skull shows up now. So getting him on board is a massive surprise and it's a major win. It's likely he'll be CGI this time, but it's great that we know he will be coming back. Hopefully they can give him another standout action moment. Number 2, Magneto. In second place is Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto. He stands as one of Marvel's most iconic cinematic villains, and his inclusion in Avengers Doomsday promises to reignite that legacy. He's a legacy cast member who we haven't seen return yet, which will make this all the more exciting. What's interesting to me here is that he is one of the few villains on this list. So what does that mean for his role in the film? Well, I assume he's going to put aside his differences and team up with the X-Men to help defeat Doom. And it's always fun when the Brotherhood of Mutants team up with the X-Men. That's part of what makes Magneto so great, is that he can often put aside his differences and fight for the greater good, for a greater cause. And it will be cool to see him alongside Charles, because in Patrick Stewart's last 2 appearances, we haven't been able to see him interact with Magneto. So it'll be great to see that for one last time. And it now has the added dynamic. What will his relationship be like with the non-mutant Avengers? And of course, Doom himself. It will be awesome to see one of the first cinematic Marvel villains fighting the most recent. And since Magneto is an Omega level mutant, this will really showcase Doom's extreme power. And overall, this will cement one of Marvel's oldest cinematic villains in the MCU's ever-evolving story. Number 1, Cyclops. Coming in at number 1 is James Marsden's Cyclops. Now, this version of Cyclops is by no means my favourite X-Men in those films, but he is the one that I'm most excited to see return because it always felt like he was done dirty. Unlike Magneto or Nightcrawler, Cyclops doesn't have an iconic moment or scene in those original films, especially when compared with the recent X-Men 97, which really showed the versatility of this character. Instead, we have the opposite, where Scott was abruptly killed off, but it's always felt like he's had potential. It's always felt like he should be more, and he was one of those ones that I felt like was missing from Deadpool 3, and now we know why. Cyclops is back. This time without Wolverine on the team to steal the spotlight. His leadership skills can be shown off. With modern CGI, we can show the true extent of his powers, and we can see him in a more iconic, comic accurate costume. The MCU has provided the opportunity to redeem actors or characters who previously had a rough history with Marvel movies, and I think James Marsden's Cyclops is long overdue his moment in the spotlight. And because of the potential to truly bring this version of the character to life, honouring Marsden's over 25-year portrayal and give the character the recognition that he deserves, I am most excited for him to return in Avengers Doomsday, and Cyclops comes in at number 1. Hope you enjoyed my ranking. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What characters are you most excited to see in Avengers Doomsday? And how are you feeling about this film overall now that you know the cast? For me, it made me more optimistic because it gives me an idea of what comics they may be adapting. But that's going to be a topic for my next video. If you enjoyed this, please give the video a like. It helps my channel out so much. And if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe. I'm aiming to hit 10,000 subscribers this year, and I am on track to do so, but I need your help. So please subscribe to help me get there and to see more videos like this on Marvel, DC, or anything else amazing going on in cinema. But for now, thanks for watching Cinemaze.